he's had a lot of experience at that charge. He was in the back in the British Championship. But of course, these three we're watching are really having their own fight to the finish, and maybe they're not watching the mirrors. But I think with a 10-second cushion over the leader, probably Smith can use a bit of discretion and not risk it all for the sake of just lapping somebody, because barring a disaster, Dave's not going to close a 10.8 second gap on the last lap, is he?
No, indeed. And there is Ryan Smith, utterly dominant. He took this truck up the hill at Goodwood a couple of weeks ago. The Navistar that he was aiming to run there, not ready, and also not completed in time for him to be confident to bring it here. So he's back to the good old faithful MAN, and more silverware is heading his way. He comes then up towards the completion of, for him, the last lap, but the Powell's ahead of him. Steve Powell, having incidentally got himself into third in the division now. There, out of the chicane, comes number one then. So Ryan Smith with Roddy Smith behind him, who of course was leading Division 2 until he was forced into the pit lane under a black flag for smoke. He's a lap down now, and so race one of the Mittel Rhine Cup won by Ryan Smith. Utterly dominant, brilliant drive, not a wheel wrong did he put. Over the line he goes to win, and then you wait and you wait and you wait for Dave Jenkins, who only now comes out of the Hyundai corner. There he is, number 69, breaks the beam to take second place. The gap at the end, 12 seconds between the two, and third, sideways, showboating out of the last corner, is Lucas Hahn. That is a pretty impressive debut.
I'd say a really great show from Lucas there, and reminiscent of his father on the slow down lap. I've got a great photo back at home of Jochen a couple of years ago where he was showboating on the slow down lap. Well, Lucas clearly comfortable with that third place and with enough of a gap over fourth place Ricky Collins to slide his way around the final turn. That is impressive for a newcomer, for sure.
Yeah. Certainly he's been well schooled and there's something in the genes, but even so, great drive. There for fourth, 95 Ricky Collett. Fifth behind him is 18 John Newell, although he's under investigation. And in sixth place, number 2 Ray Coleman. Behind them you see 51, which is the lapped rig of Bjorn Teehouse. The DAF then comes across the line. Seventh in the background there, look, Mark Taylor coming up towards the line. John Bowler should be eighth, and therefore pole position for race 2 tomorrow.
And John Bowler taking Division 2 British Championship honours, so we'll be seeing him on the podium later when they do the category awards.
Absolutely right. So good drive by John Bowler. That for his first win of the year in the division. We're not quite done yet though, because here is Tom O'Rourke, sponsor of the British Championship, and he's still under attack.
That is Bowler actually right on his tail, but are they on the slow down lap, or are they just coming to the finishing line?
But we've had a change of place, so Bowler is not going to be on pole position. He dropped to 9th, and so Tom O'Rourke has done this very well. He's going to break the beam 8th, and so Tom O'Rourke finishes 8th overall. That's pole position for tomorrow's race. John Bowler still wins his class and is still therefore taking a maiden win. But Tom O'Rourke on the last lap gets 8th overall, pole for race 2. That's Sebastien Delchambre taking 10th from the very back of the grid ahead of Brad Smith and then John Powell. So what's happened to Steve Powell on that last lap? We've lost the bright yellow MAN somewhere. There it is. But he's had a moment because he was ahead.
Definitely running at a reduced pace, as you say, because he was right on the tail of his brother a lap earlier, and he looks like he's just cruising round. Yeah.
Well, he got ahead of him, hadn't he? We saw him make the move down at the approach to turn 1, and so something has happened to him. What was that last lap? It was about 7 seconds off what it should have been, so he's had a drama somewhere. In fact, no, more than that. It was about 15 seconds off what it should have been, so he's had a big drama somewhere. Ryan Smith then just continues this domination that Stuart Oliver had many, many years ago. Stuart only doing a very, very limited campaign this year, so Ryan Smith yet again is the man in charge at the end of our first ADAC Mittel Rhine Cup.
Yeah, that's his 10th win of the season for Ryan. An impressive record from, I think that's now 13 starts, 10 wins, and even the ones he hasn't won, he's generally been second or third. So plenty of silverware building up in the cupboard there in Mansfield. Of course, the great thing is we're going to see an interesting race tomorrow with Tom O'Rourke on pole position in only his second ever race. Ryan Smith starting back on the 4th row in position 8 with Jenkins alongside, and of course young Lucas there will be the row in front of Ryan, so mixing them up in an exciting manner for tomorrow's race.
Absolutely, and it's the top 8 overall under these regulations, not per class, that are going to be reversed, but I think it's fair to say that with a busy grid like that, we had action pretty much all the way through. Once admittedly Ryan Smith had established himself up front, there was still a lot to look for further down the order.
Yeah, just a shame we lost quite a lot of runners in the early stages due to that first start and incident. Still not clear to us why the Finnish driver Forsström was actually brought in and sent back to the Parc Fermé. We thought maybe there was some detached bodywork, but he didn't get the chance to go to the mechanics in the pit lane. He was waved straight off the circuit. Same for Reed, actually. We don't really know what that was all about. He came in and there was something that was under investigation, but that might just have been a track limit thing that they were looking at. And then he subsequently had a breakdown. I don't really know yet.
Just wondering whether if you pit after a given distance, the officials take the attitude there's no point going out because you won't be classified as a finisher.
Possibly, yes.
So therefore just go straight to Parc Fermé. But yeah, I can only assume it was something that the scrutineers were not happy with, and it might have been liquid coming out of Eric Forsström's truck. However, I'm sure you will have your notebook in hand as you scurry around the paddock.
I will do my investigative duties tonight and come back to you tomorrow with all the news.
All the news and more, yes, even things we hadn't realised we didn't know. So there they all are coming into Parc Fermé. You can see liquid has come out of some of the trucks, although inevitably on the slowing down lap they get a bit hot and bothered.
Yeah, and of course you have to remember most of these trucks, well, all these trucks during the race are pumping water continuously onto the disc brakes to keep the temperature under control. And of course, as you drive in the pit lane, there's an excess of water, which you don't switch it off quickly because then the disc could break, crack. Of course, that's one of the learner's tricks, that when you go on the track, maybe you start the race without it turned on, but before you take the flying start, you make sure the brake water is switched on, because you don't want to spray cold water onto a hot brake, but you don't want them flooded before you start.
Indeed. Let's quickly do the result. Ryan Smith wins race 1 of the Mittelrhein Cup from David Jenkins, and Lucas Hahn good for the podium in his first ever race. Ricky Collett 4th ahead of John Newell, who's been referred to the stewards. More news anon. 6th Ray Coleman ahead of Mark Taylor, and Tom O'Rourke's 8th nets pole for tomorrow. John Bowler 9th overall, winning Division 2, his first of the year, and Sebastian Delchambre at 10th, up from the back of the grid ahead of Brad Smith and John Powell. Steve Powell hit strife on the last lap and falls to 13th. Rody Schmidt had an enforced pit stop because of smoke. The Dutchman 14th. Luke Garrett yo-yoed a bit in that race, ends up 15th ahead of Simon Cole and Willem Briedijk. Then Bjorn Teehouse ahead of a retired Simon Reed. Also out of the race was Dirk Benker. And Adam Bint, after a big moment on the opening lap of the restart, retired on that lap as well. We saw him bouncing all over the curb up at the chicane. He went no further. And we also, of course, lost Paul Rivette and Eric Forsström at the original start. And I think there's one other that's gone AWOL as well, because trying to do the numbers, there's another one not accounted for. However, a lively start to the weekend and a really impressive drive once again by Ryan Smith, who's establishing himself as the force in the British Truck Racing Association Championship. So it's a shame that there isn't even more opposition for him, but I still think by the end of the weekend that Lucas Hahn could have gone even better than a 3rd place. What do you reckon?
I think Team Hahn, we're just going to some highlights pictures now, but as you were saying, Hahn, I think, with the experience of his father's team there all around him, I'm sure they've got a few tweaks on the setup, because Jochen will be out again in a moment to do the qualifying for European Truck. Those two vehicles are very similar, virtually identical. If there is a few millionths of a second there, they'll find it. Very true. Of course, the other drivers will also be doing all their best to come back on the grid with a more competitive truck in the morning. I'm sure Dave Jenkins, he won't be sleeping early tonight. He'll have the wheels off and the suspension apart and try anything to find that half a second. We're just seeing an attractive corner of the Collett camp there.
That was before all the damage. Right, let's have a look at these highlights then, because it was Ryan Smith that made the best of the starts, but straight away the battle was on between Ray Coleman and John Newell. But sadly, part 1 of the race didn't go very far, because Paul Rivette's truck got turned sideways. It was collected by Eric Forsström, and that brought out the red flag. And so the fans, having got themselves all excited for the first race of the weekend, then had to sit and wait as the track was swept, the liquid soaked up, and we would go again for the full 13 laps, and Ryan Smith from pole position being able to convert that into the race lead. We had dramas early on between Ricky Collett and Ray Coleman. Now, bear in mind that Coleman had been 4th. He ended up 6th, so it was a big drama for him.
Yeah, it looks like Coleman's truck had a bit of a magnet on it. It came under attack early on by Collett, who we're seeing the spoiler there fall off the front of Ricky's truck. And, of course, later in the race, we'll probably see it. That's a bit more of an incident with the Belgian driver.
Sebastian Delchambre, who got 10th in the end.
But, of course, Coleman then, of course, was under attack almost continuously from Newell, and, of course, he eventually lost that place too. But there's the two Powell brothers in the closing stages.
So Ryan Smith takes the race win, 12 seconds to the good. And a dominant drive by Ryan, and David Jenkins, I was going to say, has got some head scratching to do, but I'm not quite sure that's going to achieve very much. He scratched his head so much this season, he still can't get onto terms with Ryan Smith. And Dave Jenkins, as we have seen for well over a decade in British truck racing, is a rapid driver in his own right, whether it's been in the MAN or the Bonneted Sisu that he ran for a time a decade or so ago. He's always been a quick and spectacular driver, but Ryan Smith has just moved the game on to a different level, and Lucas Hahn taking that third place. There is Ryan Smith out of the truck, all
That's
smiles.
his dad on the right in the red shirt.
Who used to be a mechanic for whom?
Andy Lovenbury, I think it was, he used to help. Okay. And I think maybe even before that, some other drivers. Right. But certainly when Ryan came in the paddock, I didn't know him in the early days, but there was this older gentleman who knew me, and of course, Ryan's dad was a guy we'd known from years before, as you mentioned. So, yeah, there's Ryan chatting with the mechanics from the Hahn team, actually, and I guess they're pleased with themselves because their man's done well in the European Championship this year, and of course now next generation looking strong as well.
Absolutely, there'll be a proud dad somewhere.
A proud dad and a proud grandfather,
well,
of course,
indeed,
because Connie Hahn, of course, was another ex-racer who Connie didn't actually hit the top level, but he was a regular runner in the European Championship in the early days, and then the son came along and has become a dominant force over the years, really. And of course, the interesting thing about the Hahn team is, of course, for most of the time, in the early days, Connie and Jochen in the beginning were driving Mercedes. They then switched to MAN, where they had a lot of success. There's Connie Hahn congratulating Ryan Smith. Yeah, Connie was always a Mercedes man. Jochen started with the Mercedes, then switched to MAN, and of course, in the last few years, has gone to Iveco. But clearly, the race-winning abilities and technicalities of a chassis for a race truck, that's something the team know all about.
Yeah, the nice thing about Ryan, or one of the nice things about Ryan Smith, is that despite all this success, he remains quite modest about it. So he doesn't take it all as a given, but he's done very, very well in that race again. 12 seconds is, I know it's a long race, but it's a good margin, that.
Yeah, as you say, I mean, great for Ryan and certainly an impressive performance. A little disappointing for those watching because, as I say, we're used to, even at the sharp end of the grid, the top 2 or 3 used to be really literally exchanging paintwork on the first few laps, and very rarely was anyone winning by a large margin. And Smith's just got that, as we say, it's not so much a huge amount of time, but it's on every lap he seems to be able to pull a few fractions. And of course, if you're the guy up against him in qualifying and he's half a second quicker, you're at a disadvantage from the start, aren't you?
And that's why these reverse grid races are such good ideas. There is David Jenkins, the vanquished. He is clearly frustrated. I mean, yeah, second place is good, but he wants to be winning races.
Yeah, he just hasn't got it at the moment. Being a gentleman, shaking hands, but there'll be a lot of disappointment in Dave himself because, as you say, over the years he's won dozens and dozens of races, and of course once he's held the British Championship overall, but in the Ryan Smith era, he's having to settle for second at the moment, which isn't really where you want to be.
No. So
there's that's Lucas's mother, Diane, on the right, who's just given Ryan a kiss. I don't know where their son is. I always thought they'd all be surrounding Lucas, but possibly the German TV crew have tracked him down or something.
Yeah, we're making his way from Parc Fermé to the podium very shortly. John Bowler will be celebrating his first win within Division 2. Good drive by him as well, that, from at the end of the race. Brad Smith, and then it was going to be Steve Powell, wasn't it? But John Powell, I think, managed to sneak back ahead of him, didn't he, at the very end?
Yeah, we don't know what looked like Steve had some technical issue on the slowing on the final lap, because he definitely dropped a lot of time, didn't he? So just missing out on the podium, despite, as you said, that extra time lost at the start when he had to come in for jumping the start. So I think, again, Steve Powell tomorrow, I reckon we can count on him being a contender for the podium for sure.
Definitely. Right, I think the podium is being delayed only because we are devoid of a Hahn here.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to start without him on his home circuit in his debut race.
But where's he gone?
That's a good question. I suppose he can make a legitimate excuse. I don't know the way. I've never been here before, but...
been distracted by his PlayStation or whatever.
Yeah.
So the ETRC officials are there.
Yeah, that's
the
on
Jenkins
the right.
Family there.
That's Christoph Gerlach on the right, who's one of the competitive liaison directors of Vetro. On the left there is Dave's girlfriend Hayley, and the newborn daughter, who actually, I'm sorry, I'm having a name break fade, but Dave and Hayley brought the youngster to the track when I think it was less than a week old. So there's a kid with diesel in the blood.
Absolutely, absolutely. A racing career is inevitable, I think, there.
There's a man who's been busy today on the left, the chief scrutineer. I think we saw him earlier getting the angry finger out and waving at one or two drivers.
So all the ADAC's dignitaries are there ready for the podium, but we're just lacking drivers. We might not be too long on this podium because there's going to be a qualifying session coming up on the live stream shortly, which will be for the FIA European Truck Racing Championship. There's qualifying followed by the Super Pole.
Yep.
And then later on in the afternoon, the live stream will have the first part of the go-stop competition. So there's more to come here from this International Truck Grand Prix. So as soon as we get the signal, the drivers will be up on the podium. Can't find any Division 2 drivers yet either, so might just be overall. But in the background, we hear the circuit commentary team getting ready to bring forward the drivers onto the podium, which runs in the fan village. So it's not the circuit's podium, it's so that the fans can easily get to see the drivers and go and join in these celebrations. And then, assuming he's there, Lucas Hahn will take the third step. But at the moment, there's no guarantee of that.
Possibly he's been mobbed by the fan club or something.
Division 1 der britischen Meisterschaft ehren. Ich gehe jetzt noch mal einen ganz kleinen Moment zurück, weil wenn er schon einen Auftritt hat, dann kriegt er einen richtigen von mir. Ich guck mal gerade. Meine Damen und Herren, wir kommen zur Siegerehrung des ersten Rennens ADAC Mittelrhein. Das erste Rennen, das erste Podium auf dem dritten Platz, Lucas Hahn.
So we found him and a great drive, Lucas Hahn, for third place in his first ever truck race.
Auf dem zweiten Platz, congratulations to David Jenkins. Und der Sieger des ersten Rennens des ADAC Mittelrhein Cup, congratulations, Ryan Smith. Und zu Ehren des Siegers Ryan Smith und der Platzierten hören wir jetzt die britische Nationalhymne. Riesenapplaus, give a big hand to Ryan Smith, David Jenkins und Lucas Hahn. Und bei Lucas konnte ich mir ein verschmitztes Lächeln, er hat bestimmt gedacht, hey, ist das alles wahr? Erstes Rennen, erstes Podium. Bei Conny Hahn sehe ich so Emotionen. Und ich muss ehrlich sagen, ich habe auch Gänsehaut. Darf es an der Stelle sagen, wenn so ein junger Mann auf dem Podium ist, ein Riesenapplaus für Lucas Hahn und er bekommt jetzt den verdienten Lohn von Franz Rudolf Ubach, dem Vorstand Sport des ADAC Mittelrhein. Herzlichen Glückwunsch zum dritten Platz, Lucas Hahn. Von Dr. Achim Schlömer, dem Vorstand Touristik des ADAC Mittelrhein, bekommt
Lucas Hahn
David
gets
Jenkins
his third
den
place
Pokal
trophy.
Herzlichen
And
Glückwunsch,
as we've been saying, a very, very good debut indeed. David Jenkins' trophy comes in two parts, but it still just about fits together. And David Jenkins, takes the trophy and forces a big, big smile. But Ryan Smith takes What's that? His 10th win of the season. Another great drive by Ryan Smith, who has in a short space of time become Mr. Truck Racing in the UK.
On the first
and
stage,
the drivers now will all get together on the top step for photographs. Lucas Hahn on the far side of the blue and white overalls, David Jenkins on the other with the black and red. Ryan Smith almost hidden behind his trophy.
Ich mich auch im Vorfeld, aber nicht auf dich, sondern auf das Grundprozedere.
Thank
you very much. And now, ladies and gentlemen, it's time
champagne
for champagne.
Ryan Smith takes his first win. I suspect it might turn out to be the first of 3, let's see, over the course of the weekend. And Lucas Hahn and David Jenkins join the celebrations, but yet another part of the Hahn dynasty has proved that he is going to be a force to be reckoned with. More miles will be achieved over the weekend, more pace will be found, and Lucas Hahn, certainly a man to watch. So Lucas Hahn takes 3rd, 2nd to David Jenkins, and Ryan Smith scores honours in our first Mittelrhein Cup race of the weekend.
Du hast dich nur mit dem Start beschäftigt. So hat es ausgesehen. Wie geht das los? Das hast du super gelöst. Sag mal, wie fühlst du dich denn jetzt so?
So, also wirklich. Ja, da kann man zufrieden sein. Am Anfang war ich schon etwas passiert jetzt. Und da bin ich einfach ganz locker geblieben und habe die anderen beobachtet, was die machen. Und so sind wir dann noch gestartet.
Herzlichen Glückwunsch, du hast noch mehrere Chancen dieses Wochenende. Wir drücken die Daumen, aber das nimmt dir niemand mehr. David, 2nd place, satisfied?
Sorry?
2nd place this race for you, are you satisfied?
Yeah, it was a good result for us. You know, Ryan was very, very fast this weekend again. He was always going to be. We're not quite where we need to be with the truck yet in terms of setup. I've got to say it's an honour to be here on the podium with Lucas in his first race. You know, I owe a lot to his dad over the years, and it's really great to be here on the podium with him today.
Danke David, ich übersetze gerade, also David hat gesagt, Ryan war sehr schnell und wir müssen da noch ein bisschen am Setup arbeiten, aber alle haben gesagt, auch David, es ist ihm eine große Ehre, zum ersten Mal mit Lucas Hahn auf dem Podium zu stehen, das ist schon ganz toll. Ryan, first race, first victory and 3rd place for Lucas. You said to me in the grid, Lucas is good for 1st place, 2nd place, I had to look for him. What's your, from your own point of view about the...
Well, first of all, congratulations to Dave, because, you know, this year we had a big fight and he really got a lot better, but, you know, Nürburgring, Germany, I work a lot with Jochen, and Jochen helped me in the beginning of my racing career, and I have a lot of respect for Jochen and the family and the team, and me and Lucas are friends, so to be on the podium with Lucas Hahn for the first time in his career, you know, is a little bit fitting, because me and Dave both fly Camion from Jochen at the beginning at the same time, so it's like a meant-to-be family piece of thing. So, you know, congratulations to Team Hahn, congratulations to Dave, and we only need 2 more wins now, huh?
Congratulations to you and 2 more wins this Saturday or Sunday. I think we will see us again here on Podium. Ryan Smith, thank you. Also Ryan Smith hat gesagt, und David Jenkins haben immer mit Jochen zusammengearbeitet am Anfang und deswegen
So, congratulations to Lucas Hahn for 3rd place, David Jenkins 2nd, and Ryan Smith, the winner of our first ADAC Mittelrhein Cup race of the weekend. And very shortly, we'll turn our attention on track to qualifying for the FIA European Truck Racing Championship. Qualifying underway, out on track come the rigs for this 4th event within the FIA European Truck Racing Championship, and it's a very busy grid here as well, with a number of new names that come as race-by-race entrants. Now, we've already had, during the course of the morning, the 2 free practice periods. Sasha Lentz it was that topped the times in the first of them, and in the 2nd free practice period that came after qualifying for the Mittelrhein Cup, it was Antonio Albafetti who topped the times. He did a 1:55.219 as the better of the 2 session fastest laps. Now, in this, you've got 10 minutes and then the top 10 go into the Superpole competition. So in a sense, this is about not being slow rather than about being quick. The championship has, in terms of qualifying, or Superpoles at least, rather been dominated by Jochen Hahn, because he got 1 at Misano, 2 at Hungaroring and 2 in the Slovakia ring. The only other driver to have been able to get a Superpole pole is Norbert Kisch, former champion himself, or champion of years past. Jochen Hahn comes here as the championship leader. He's enjoying yet another stellar season. He is 41 points up on Steffi Halm. And then third in the championship is the aforementioned Norbert Kisch. Number 17 there, just going through shot, Shane Brereton with the MAN. It's had 2 career wins. And you see everybody running in a great big gaggle. Nobody at the moment really wanting to push, but equally they don't want to get themselves caught up in the traffic. What you want is 1 clear lap. That's all the tyres really will take, because then you need to try and keep some life in them for the Superpole. So you get this slow bicycle race now for the first part of qualifying. They're not even on the flying lap yet, and we've had nearly 3 minutes of the session. It's quite an intriguing view at times. Andre Kurzim just going through the shot for the Don't Touch Racing team. So Jochen Hahn it is that leads them up the hill. They are initially on the track in championship order. Hahn ahead of Halm. Then you've got Norbert Kisch behind. He's third in the championship. Adam Lachko fourth, and Antonio Alberfetti, number 23, their fifth. René Reinert, number 77, the blue rig, their sixth. He is ahead of Sascha Lenz. Then it is Andre Kurzim, Jose Rodriguez, and Luis Refenko. That's your top 10 in the championship. It's top 10 in order. And so now Jochen Hahn sprints into the Hyundai corner. Steffi Halm picks up her pace, but look, they're virtually at a standstill coming out of the chicane, because you do not want to get caught up in traffic. And so let's see, in this pretty much one-shot qualifying session to get into Superpole, who does what. Jochen Hahn blasts away then. There he is. So you've just seen his son get a maiden podium, and the Hahn Racing team run, De Bullen, von Iveco, Magiris run Iveco down towards turn 1. Jochen, who started back in 2000, he was fourth that year. You've perhaps been seeing on the live stream his father, Konrad Hahn, who was a racer himself, but Jochen, champion in 2011, 2012, 2013, 2016, 2018, and looking at the moment as though it's going to be 2019 as well. Former Mercedes turned MAN turned Iveco driver, 12 wins last year, on his way to a pretty dominant championship. And Jochen Hahn, along with Adam Lachko, perhaps the benchmark driver, but there are others that are still capable of taking race wins. Hahn then now down towards the hairpin. Understeer here is going to be very costly indeed. He's being chased by Steffi Halm. See in the background. And Jochen using all of the curb. Not going too wide, not attracting the officials' attention, but using enough of the road. But interestingly, Norbert Kisch, quicker than anybody within the first sector on this lap. So there, Adam Lachko, 55, goes through. Antonio Alberfetti behind him. He was a winner here last year. Antonio, the Spanish ex-single-seater turned touring car driver. But number 1, Jochen Hahn then now heads towards the end of the middle sector. A 1:55 is what we're looking for, and I suspect that having done this, most people will then head for the pit lane. But the top 10 is going to be the crucial bit up towards the chicane. Jochen Hahn, he's going to do the benchmark time. He's done an absolute best in the middle sector. Is it going to be enough to go quickest of all? Let's see as he comes now down towards the right-hander into the Hyundai corner. He will accelerate onto the pit straight. So he's done a personal and an absolute, whereas Kisch has done an absolute and a personal in terms of sector bests. Over the line goes Jochen Hahn, and he does a 1:55.018. Steffi Halm behind is a 55.7. What about Norbert Kisch? It's a 55.4. I think Hahn's got the best lap then in the qualifying session going into Superpole. Adam Lachko's only fourth. Alberfetti goes second. Absolute best in the last sector. Alberfetti 1:55.312. Good lap that by the Spanish driver. So over the timing line, they have poured. Andre Kurzim up to 5th ahead of Halm. So now we need to see who is going to be 10th. Jose Rodriguez 9th, Luis Refenko 10th. Jamie Anderson misses out, and Shane Brereton gets into the top 10. Shane Brereton goes 10th then, so that puts Refenko to 11th. Ollie James 12th, Terry Gibbon 13th, Anderson is 14th. There's still Eduardo Rodriguez to come. And also Gert Kurber, European champion. Oh, he misses out just. He's 11th, Gert Kurber, by 23 thousandths. He misses out on Superpole. So Anthony Janiek goes over the line. He misses out as well. Is everybody down for a flying lap? I think they are. We've just got Erwin Klein-Nagelvoort going through. Theo Calvé will be the next one to break the beam. Theo Calvé, who made his European debut here this time last year, and he gets himself to where? 18th. There's the returning Frankie Wojciech to come. There's also Franck Conti and Heinrich Clemens Hecker, but I can't think they're going to threaten much, nor is Jennifer Janiek, Anthony Janiek's sister, and that therefore means that Harm, Lentz, Albacete, Kish, Kurzim, Halm, Reiner, Lachko, Rodriguez and Brereton, Shane Brereton making a welcome return to the European scene. They are going to be the top 10 that will get into Superpole. And look, those that have done the one shot, back out of it. Number 7 still pushing on there, Jamie Anderson, but he's mired in 17th here. He's one of the leading Grammer truck entrants for the privateers, where he chases Cup leader Ollie Janes and Louis Rethwenko. So Antonio Albacete then, 3rd fastest. Sascha Lentz was the man that really improved right at the very end. Up to 2nd, Sascha Lentz. So a good effort, getting himself up to 2nd fastest. And number 9, overspeeding, lap time cancel. That's Frankie Wojciech. Vastly experienced driver is Frantic Frankie, and I'm afraid that overspeeding means that the lap time disappears, and into the bottom end of the times he will drop. 25th he will be. That's Jamie Anderson going for another lap, but I don't think it's going to do him a huge amount. It will move him up a bit, I suspect, within the second half of the grid. It's not going to be enough to put the former rallyman into Superpole, but he's having a go right enough. The Anderson Commercials truck comes through turn 2 now. Jamie Anderson pressing on. So there is Jamie Anderson, 18th he now is, because he's just been displaced by Theo Calvé. Yes, Theo Calvé, 15th fastest, putting himself ahead. But Anderson looking strong, no question about that. 3 turns. Now with 1 minute of the qualifying session, then of course there is Superpole to come. What can Jamie Anderson do to go any quicker? Well, on this lap, what are his sectors like? His first sector is better than his previous lap, but his second sector is a little bit down. Into the chicane he comes, the hard chicane if you like, the much tighter variant. There's a hard and a soft for different types of race vehicle, cars, bikes, trucks, historics, you name it, around here. And this, again, to curb the speed, is the much slower version of the chicane. Jamie Anderson then now, even if he can't get into Superpole, he wants to be as far up the grid as he can get. And he comes over the timing line now. And that lap from Jamie Anderson is actually not an improvement. He was a 10th slower than his earlier best, so he misses out just a little. There's the flag as Terry Gibbon goes through in the T-Sport MAN. And 17th he is. An improvement comes from Fabio Citignola, new to the championship this year. Clio racer, Carter, Audi R8 LMS Cup runner. There over the line goes Antonio Albacete, but there's no improvement from him. Shane Brereton stayed in the top 10. There going over the line is number 38, which is Rodriguez Senior, Jose Eduardo Rodriguez. He goes over the timing line, the 65-year-old, who has had a 10th this year as his best last time out in the Slovakia event. .25 up to the timing line is going to pretty much complete the session, I think. Heinrich Clemens Hecker with the MAN, having a one-off outing in the European Championship, and that's Franck Conti behind him. Franck Conti from the French series. And the team TCS Volvo. 75, Jennifer Janiek, Anthony's sister. And That makes it 2 lady drivers on the grid this weekend. The first time that's happened since Harama back in 2016 in what is Maurice Monfrino's rig, this Lion Track Racing team MAN. There is Jennifer Janiac, a regular within the French Championship, as, to be fair, is also her brother, because that's these days where Anthony does the bulk of his racing, but he did do the opening European round at Bassano and got 3rd in the 2nd of the 2 reverse grid races, race 4 of the weekend. So Anthony Janiac has had a podium. So Jennifer Janiac will start 24th on the grid provisionally, ready for the first race tomorrow. So now everybody makes their way down the pit lane, and this is how we look at the end of that brief, effectively 1 lap qualifying. Iveco, MAN for the top 3. Jochen Hahn ahead of Sascha Lenz, having a really good season here. Antonio Albacete 3rd from Norbert Kisch. Andre Kurzim ahead of Steffi Halm. Then René Reinert, Adam Lachko, Jose Rodriguez and Gert Kurber, the top 10. So that means that Kurber got up into the top 10 right at the very end. He stayed out and pushed out of the top 10 Shane Brereton. So that is the order of the top 10 at the end of qualifying. But then, of course, behind the grid is effectively sorted. Adam Lachko, a bit disappointing, isn't he? Down in 8th place, but you could argue that the time's not really, at the moment, relevant. As long as you're in that top 10, then you can fight it out in Superpole. 11th is where you find Anthony Janiac, ahead of Shane Brereton and then Lewis Rethenko. Thomas Robino is 14th ahead of Theo Calvé and Ollie James. 17th Terry Gibbon. 18th Jamie Anderson ahead of Fabio Citignola. Irving Klein-Nagelvort 21st from Clemens Heinrich Hecker. Then 23rd from Conti. 24th Jennifer Janiac and Frankie Wojciech put to the back because of over-speeding. So there's your top 10. Those are the 10 drivers that will now wait for a minute and a half and then go out ready for Superpole. So things running a little bit delayed here because of the red flag that we had in the British round within the Mittelrhein Cup. So timetable slightly behind, and therefore it means that the next activity, which should be qualifying for the IDM Superbike event after Superpole, this is going to be running a little bit late, and therefore the Nor Bremser Go Stop competition at the end of the day also, one fears, will be delayed as well. The rest of the times you've seen, Janiac from Brereton from Rethenko, this the very rear of the grid, where Eduardo Rodriguez is 21st from Heinrich Clemens Hecker, and then from Conti. And so the trucks now make their way to the end of the pit lane, or in the case of those that have been knocked out of Superpole, into Parc Fermé. And as soon as possible, they will be released. The pit exit is open. Now, who is going to be the first taker? Who is going to be the first driver out on track? Let's wait and see. Ideally, you want to be first out because you've got clear road ahead of you, and that's exactly what Jochen Hahn does ahead of Sascha Lenz. So they're going in the order of qualifying. So Albacete goes 3rd, Norbert Kisch goes 4th, Andre Kurzim ahead of Steffi Halm, ahead of René Reinert, then Adam Lachko, Jose Rodriguez and Gert Kurber, number 27, who was 10th, will be the last man out. Gert Kurber, who was a European champion twice for Bagheera, who of course the team operating the Freightliner there, the bonneted truck of Adam Lachko. The rare Freightliner, the rare bonneted truck these days. And Adam Lachko slowly makes his way through the Mercedes arena, looking for clear track space ahead of him. So there is Sascha Lentz, number 30. Sascha also has had, as I say, a good year. 2 wins, one having come in Hungary, one having come in Slovakia. Admittedly, they are in the reverse grid races, but even so, wins are good for the morale. So now everybody works their way up towards the Bidol chicane out of the Ad van Bogen and starts to build up, try to first of all lag back so you've got clear road ahead, but then start to push so you've got the momentum ready for the start of your pretty much single flying lap, and they are about to get that underway. Jochen Hahn heads slowly up the hill into the chicane. Sascha Lentz staying with him. And then Antonio Albacete, another old master of truck racing, of course. Antonio himself has been a European champion. Let's see what he's going to be able to do here. 3 times a champ, Antonio. 3rd in the championship last year, but was a winner, in fact, here last season. Antonio Albacete won race 1. Steffi Halm had a win. Jochen Hahn had a win. Anthony Janiak won the 4th race. So it was a real spread of winners. So off we go again, and Jochen Hahn, it will be, setting the benchmark time, no doubt. Sascha Lentz rumbles over the line, down towards the almost hairpin-like first corner. That's Albacete then for Truck Sport Lutz Bernau with his MAN. And in the background is Norbert Kish, who looked like he was going to be pretty quick in that qualifying session, but Norbert Kish, who again is a champion, twice a champion in truck racing, European champion. He needs to pull something out of the bag now for the Technical Vierundzwanzig Racing squad. So let us now see what the order is going to be and how similar it's going to be to the qualifying list. Sascha Lentz there, you can see, still hunting for sponsorship. Second generation racer. Dan Heinz-Werner did do the Mittelrhein Cup last year and was pretty decent in the Go Stop competition, but not competing this weekend as far as we know in that either. Number 1 then, Jochen Hahn, presses on. Accelerates down the hill now then. So out of the Bilstein curve towards the Ad van Bogen and then on up towards the chicane. There's Antonio Albacete. Now, so far, Jochen Hahn quickest in Sector 1, nobody rivaling him. He's also done the benchmark time in Sector 2, but only 2 have gone through it, and he rides the curb and bounces just a little bit wide. Is that going to compromise the run in the last sector from Jochen Hahn? Let's see. If he doesn't get pole position, it will be that little spill at the chicane that would have done it. Let's find out as he comes now up towards the end of the lap. Again, he's wide there, up towards the timing line. So Jochen Hahn will do a time of 1:54.782. Sascha Lentz goes across the line and goes second. Absolute best in the last sector. Albacete goes second then. It's Hahn, Albacete, Lentz. What about Kish? Kish goes third ahead of Lentz. Here comes Andre Kurzim, number 11. Kurzim goes 5th. Steffi Halm is next, but I don't think he's going to get up the order. She's 5th. What about René Reinert? Reinert will be 7th or better. 7th he is. Adam Lachko is the next man across the timing line, and Adam Lachko's lap puts him only 6th ahead of Jose Rodriguez, who is 9th, and Gert Kurber will be the next. But Jochen Hahn has done it. Despite that little moment at the chicane, Jochen Hahn takes them pole position. Yet again, he proves that he is still the master of Superpole, and Jochen Hahn takes pole position for the first ETRC race from Antonio Albacete. Then it is Norbert Kish. Sascha Lentz drops back effectively, goes from to 4th from 2nd. So Hahn quickest in both. 2nd is Albacete up from 3rd. 3rd is Norbert Kish up from 4th. 4th is Sascha Lentz, who was 2nd in qualifying. 5th is Steffi Halm. She was 6th in the qualifying session. 6th is Adam Lachko, up from 8th. 7th is Andre Kurzim, down from 5th. 8th, René Reinert, down from 7th. 9th, as he was, Jose Rodriguez. 10th, as he was, Gert Kurber. But another good session posted by Jochen Hahn. And he is the fastest then at the end of the Super Pole. And so that, out of 7 Super Poles, is the 6th in which he has triumphed thus far. So looking mighty good indeed is Jochen Hahn. And so now he, Antonio Albacete, Norbert Kish there make their way back to the pit lane in Benson Park Fairmate. But a very, very good effort that by Jochen Hahn, knowing exactly when to push, and despite that little slip, able to capitalise and still take the fastest time. And that's where the worry comes from for the opposition, because if he's able to make a tiny mistake and still be quicker than anybody, what hope do they have? The session is not strictly done, of course. You can carry on if you so desire, and Sascha Lentz is doing just that, so he's going to get perhaps that as a breather lap, and then he'll push once more. Antonio Albacete likewise. Now, is Jochen Hahn going to stay out and have another run? He's going to, I think. So, although quite often drivers will have just one shot, they might feel it's cooler temperatures now, late afternoon here, the sun's gone in, they might just be able to get another good lap out of these tyres. Sascha Lentz for Leuven Power, down then towards the hairpin. Sascha 4th, but with the task wheel as he turns through the hairpin, is there going to be an improvement? Even if it's not for pole, it would at least get him perhaps a row further up the grid. If he can start on the front row, that would be something. So Lentz down, I'm afraid, in the first sector. That's Antonio Albacete having another go. Can Albacete do anything about Jochen Hahn's time? The answer is no. In the first sector, he's down. So he's down by a 10th on the first flying lap. Norbert Kish is also down. But interestingly, Sascha Lentz has just done a personal best in the middle sector. So Sascha Lentz then pressing on and trying, even if he's not that good at the start of the lap, to bring something out of the middle part, which might compensate for it. And the same, Andre Kurzim has actually improved in Sector 1, so we're not totally done yet. So we have an order, but it might change again here. There is Lentz, absolute best in the last sector, but stays 3rd, frustratingly for him. So Sascha Lentz, no, not stays 3rd, goes up to 3rd, forgive me. Sascha Lentz up to 3rd at the expense of Norby Kish. There over the line is Antonio Albacete, who also did an absolute best in the last sector, but stays 2nd. No improvement then on the lap time from Albacete. So it's Hahn, Albacete, Lentz, Kish. Norbert Kish goes through, doesn't improve. And there in the background is Jochen Hahn, who has stayed out, but not going to improve. There is still time to start another flying lap here. Through goes Steffi Halm, getting sector improvements from most, but not lap times. Andre Kurzim improves the lap and goes 6th fastest, so ahead of Adam Lachko. Now there's Lachko in the background. Lachko is down to 7th. Is he going to be able to improve on this last lap? Kurzim did a 1:55.722. Lachko breaks the beam, doesn't improve, stays 7th fastest. So disappointment there for Adam Lachko. There's the flag for Gert Kurber, who will stay 10th fastest, and the flag he takes, but Sascha Lentz still on the flying lap, but he's not going to improve, I don't believe, down in Sector 1 here. So there is Lentz, accelerating now up towards the chicane and then to the Hyundai curve. Down in Sector 1, down in Sector 2. Norbert Kish up in Sector 1, interestingly. So can he squeeze something out of this at the very end of the session? There is Sascha Lentz, 3rd provisionally, but Norbert Kish might be able to go quicker. Let's see when he heads towards the BMW gantry, just the other side of the timing line. Where's the Hungarian, or is he backed out of it? Let's see. Still looks like he's pressing on, doesn't it? Here he comes. So Norbert Kish then up towards the timing line. He's fourth at the moment on a 1:55.1, and that lap of Norbert Kish is a 55.2. So he is 700ths down and does not improve as a consequence. So everybody coming through now is taking the flag. There is Antonio Albacete, who looks like he's abandoned this lap. So Albacete, yeah, he was down in Sector 1, down in Sector 2. That's a pretty modest end. And the same is true for Jochen Hahn. He's just stayed out there, but not able to respond. And actually, in fairness to Jochen, not needing to respond either. So Jochen Hahn it is, who takes then the pole position for race 1, provisionally. We will await confirmation, because there will be the technical checks after the session, but looks as though it's a given. There, down the pit road, Adam Lachko, 7th, champion 2 years ago, but struggling ever since, it would appear. So Jochen Hahn takes pole position by just over a 10th from Antonio Albacete. Sasha Lentz 3rd ahead of Norbert Kish and then Steffi Halm. Andre Kurzim 6th fastest, Adam Lachko 7th. 8th goes the way of René Reiner, 9th Jose Rodriguez, and it's Gert Kurber who rounds out the top 10. So that is how we look at the end of Superpole, and knit that all together to the grid, and it's going to be a very entertaining first race, that is for sure. So Jochen Hahn, the man to beat once more in qualifying in Superpole for the FIA European Truck Racing Championship. And for Jochen Hahn, he will look forward to the first ETRC race tomorrow morning, 11:05 local time. But for now, well done, Jochen. It's pole position in this qualifying and Superpole session for the FIA European Truck Racing Championship. Still to come later on the live stream is the go stop. Should have started at 5:10. It will be a little bit after that, but do keep checking back because it's always great fun. From David Addison, for now it's goodbye. We'll see you later here at the Nürburgring.